How the devil are you, sir?
I'm good. How about you? Who do we have on the call? I see Jamie and who else?
Tom.
Jamie and Tom. What's up, guys?
How's it going?
It's going good. Tom, I'm digging the pops in the background. Which ones are those?
Oh, they're Randy Orton and Kurt Angle from WWE.
Okay.
And I've got loads up there and loads down there.
Nice. Yeah, I've got a little bit of a plastic crack addiction myself.
Jesus. Oh!
Yeah, that's just a little taste of the Transformers collection.
That puts that to shame.
You haven't seen my storage.
And the 15 garages.
Right, exactly.
Who have we got here on your shoulder?
Oh, this is Buddy. Buddy is a crimson-bellied conure, and he's a sweet little guy. Come here, Buddy. Say hello. Step up and come and say hello.
Oh, wow.
Oh, what a beauty.
Buddy. He frequently appears in my TikTok videos. But he's a good little guy. Mwah.
He is beautiful.
So he'll either be hanging out or he'll fly over to the window to check himself out.
No worries at all. How's your day been?
So far, so good. Really the start to my day today was this weekend was a be quiet and reflect kind of weekend. So I took the opportunity to sleep in.
Nice.
So I just got up probably like about an hour and a half ago.
Oh, beautiful.
So definitely a late start to this week. But it's going to be a busy week for sure.
What time is it over there?
Right here, it's noon.
Oh, yeah. Wow, you did sleep in late. Fair play.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's been upwards of it was 108 degrees yesterday, and it's been incredibly hot here in Los Angeles.
I'm jealous.
Wish I could say the same. We had cold and rain today.
Oh, see, I wouldn't mind some of that.
It's funny, people from cold climates are like, I really want warm weather. People in the warm are like, no, you don't. We want cold weather.
Exactly. All this fur on my body is not for heat. It's not for heat purposes. Like, Tom, that beard must really help you, like, acclimate to different types of weather.
Do you know what, right? It's just, if I ever shaved, it'd be weird. It'd be like tan and then white. It'd just be all pure white all around here. I would look so weird.
It's like you went cosplaying as Thanos and just slept out in the sun and yeah. Strap off and there it is. Mother Nature. Smooth as a baby's butt and the same color.
Oh,
thank you so much for coming on and doing this. It's really appreciated.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to do it, man. Happy to meet some new faces and talk geeky stuff.
Yeah, it's a privilege.
Love it. Well, what we normally do is I do a little intro and then we just ask a bunch of questions and have a chinwag for a bit.
Okay.
Amazing.
I'll follow your lead.
Wonderful. Right, let's get started. Ladies and gentlemen, this week we have another wonderful guest for you. Today we have a man who you might not know his name, but you will know his voice. A man who has used his incredible talent to voice not one, not two, but 3 and even more iconic characters. You could say this man is magically delicious. Today we have Mr. Daniel Ross.
Hey.
Welcome to the show, sir.
Hello, Jamie, Tom. Thank you so much for having me on the show. This is a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, it's an absolute privilege to have you here.
I could say that being on this podcast is magically delicious.
No, I love it. So we don't even have that cereal over here, but it's just so iconic, that advert. You know, we just know it anyway.
I've heard it's only in specialty stores.
Yeah, pretty much, and it costs like £6 a box.
Yeah, something like getting your oil changed on a car or something really expensive.
It's ridiculous. Don't get me wrong, it's amazing and it tastes incredible, but I don't want to have to remortgage the house to buy a box.
No, you don't.
So, how's lockdown treated you?
It's been once in a lifetime kind of situation. So
yes.
everybody's journey has certainly been their own in this experience. But, collectively, this has been such a shock to everybody's system And, you know, for those who have lost loved ones and friends, I have friends who have passed on from this. It's been a scary time, and you know, we're kind of seeing what we're made of, you know, in terms of our response to it. And here in the U.S., we certainly could be doing better. But you know, the lockdown was important, and you know, it's kind of carried forward ever since, and really changed the way we do things. The fact that we're doing this over Zoom. Nobody knew what Zoom was at the beginning of this year. Very few people knew who Zoom was, and now everybody does. So for me, you know, it was a shock to the system to have to isolate and be away from family and loved ones. But, you know, I discovered TikTok, and TikTok has been a heck of a lot of fun, just a nice place to have a creative release and create some characters and do some comedy and, you know, build up a small following of people that like my content. So that's kind of been an adventure in and of itself, and I'm grateful for it because, look, in the past pandemics in 1918, we didn't have Zoom, we didn't have TV, we didn't have telephones like we do today. We don't have the same amenities and comforts that they did in previous times. So, you know, I have to look at the positive and just be grateful for what we have.
Yeah, I mean,
by the way, I'm very long-winded, so if you ask me questions and I ramble on for hours, feel free to cut me off.
That's exactly what we want. That's what we're here for. People listen to us for an hour and a bit anyway.
Pineapple. That'll be our safe word, pineapple.
Like I said, people listen to us enough anyway, before and after the interview, so it's all good that you chat away. It's all good. I just want to say I'm really sorry to hear about your friends that you've lost during this awful time. It's been weird. Like you said, it's just like everyone's starting to learn a lot about themselves and how to cope with this sort of in the pandemic and that sort of thing. So I know a lot of people are struggling. So like
it's a hard thing to talk about, my friend. I mean, realistically, we are going through such a difficult time.
Yeah.
Everyone is struggling in their own way, shape, and form. And you know, my approach is to try to help make people laugh. And that's a very fine line to walk in this time right now, because again, everybody is hurting and grieving in their own way and dealing with the way that the world is changing. So, you know, I feel for everybody. And but yeah, it's difficult to talk about because you want to have nice, positive communications with people and talk frankly about things, but also be sensitive to the fact that this is a life-changing, once in a lifetime event that we're going through right now. So
absolutely. So okay, then we'll move away from that. Have you taught yourself or learned anything whilst you've been isolated other than your TikToks?
Have I taught myself? Well, I've been diving back into a little bit of beginner Spanish because I used to almost be fluent when I was in high school, and I let it go. So I'm going back to basics and just trying to learn a little bit more of that. As you're aware, I have a very large Transformers collection, so that continues to propagate on its own without my help at all. I don't know why. And yeah, just TikTok. The thing that TikTok's really allowed me to do, because I moved out to Los Angeles 6 years ago just to focus on voiceover. And I started as an on-camera actor, and then a film producer, and then a writer, all things so that I could facilitate my own work. And when I started with voiceover, excuse me, and dedicated myself to that, I, stopped doing on-camera stuff. I stopped doing film production. So having a chance to do that on a very small scale has been enlivening and a lot of fun, and has woken up a part of me that I missed. So I can see a progression now towards doing some more on-camera, doing some more film production, which I think will make me very happy. On top of everything that I do.
It's not busy enough as it is.
Exactly. No, it's very busy, and that's one thing I wish someone had taught me, was the business of voiceover. The business of the entertainment industry is a wild ride. Let me tell you that.
I'm looking forward to hearing about it.
Was your work at all affected by everything going on, or has being voiceover artist, do you get to do things from home? Have you got like a home studio sort of thing?
Yeah, I do. I have a home recording set up here in my office, and I've recorded video games. I've recorded episodes for shows, all from the luxury of my home, and sometimes with or without pants. You'll never know. So, yeah, I have to say I've been, again, very fortunate and extremely grateful to be able to continue to work from home almost uninterrupted. I mean, all of my auditions are done online. I get my auditions via email from my agents. I get to record them here and edit, and then I send them off. So really the only thing that's changed has been physically going to the studios to record, and then of course, having FaceTime with people, grabbing a handshake or a hug every so often, and grabbing a cup of coffee and talking about life. It feels so much more formal, even though it's informal now, doing the whole Zoom thing and catching up with people, because you can spend a full day doing that and you're just staring at your phone or your computer all day.
Yeah.
So it's just such a very different dynamic. But I think out of all the industries, voiceover has been the least hit in that regard. You can still do animation. People are still animating from home and can do that remotely. So I feel very, very lucky. But on-camera production, not so much. Not so much. It's going to be like 2022 before we really start seeing, I think, movies coming back to the way they were before. We're going to be getting mostly things that we were already promised, like Ghostbusters. I was so excited to see Ghostbusters and the new Black Widow movie, and Mulan and all these things in the theaters. So I'm gonna have to wait a little bit.
Yes.
But yeah, I've been good. I've been good on that front.
That's amazing. It's good to hear. So how long ago did you start in entertainment?
Oh boy. I think I caught the bug when I was in middle school. I was a shrimpy little kid. My very first musical was The Music Man, and I played Harold Hill, which was the bad guy from that show. And I'm, a little middle school aged boy with all the girls ready to go into high school who are like 10 feet taller than me. And I was the shrimpy kid playing the bad guy, and I had so much fun with it. And I think that's where I caught the bug. But in terms of professionally, I got my union card. I'm a member of the Screen Actors Guild and AFTRA. I got that probably in about 2003, 2004. So I formally started working in the business, I would say, as soon as I turned 20. As soon as I turned 20, and I'm now 40. So about 20 years.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Is that something
It's a long time. It's a long time, my friend. I feel it in my bones. I feel it in my bones. My goodness. That could just be this watch I'm sitting on now.
Is voice acting something you've always wanted to do, or did it just happen by accident?
I think it happened by accident. So I always had a proclivity for voices and impressions, impersonations. I would impersonate my teachers in school. I would impersonate all the characters, Looney Tunes and Merry Melodies and all the cartoon characters I'd see on TV. I would do prank phone calls and I'd get in trouble. And I just never realized, hey, this is an actual job until much later in life.
Yeah.
I had, of course, pursued acting, musical theater. That was my college degree. I ended up dropping out of that and focusing on film and, on camera, and then producing my own content so that I could act in it, and then writing my own content so that I could produce so that I could act in it.
Wow.
So it's always been kind of a crazy process, for me at least.
That is incredible what you do.
Yeah, I don't know if I glazed over your point there.
No, it's fine. I understand.
I went into talking land and I forgot where I was. Who are you again? What am I?
Where are we?
That's right. The rest of this interview, I'm just going to talk like this the whole time. How about that?
All right, that sounds grand, man. Thank you very much.
Just remember, Bob's your uncle, mind the gap. I just felt collectively everyone in your country just have an urge to kill me all of a sudden. It's so strange.
I feel like every Briton just went like a meerkat. Like, what was that?
So what was your first job? Like,
oh gosh, my first job. So I started doing radio commercials, car commercials, voicemail messages for corporate companies, impressions. Like they'd say, hey, do Elvis Presley. So, hey, I'll do Elvis Presley, doing a thing. And, it was like that was just a thing to bring in a little bit of extra money while I worked full-time in retail. I was a manager at Target. I was a store manager at Blockbuster. I'm dating myself right now, of course, with this information. But yeah, I worked in retail for a long time. And, voiceover was just kind of a hobby. It was just kind of a fun thing that I always enjoyed doing. And now I'm remembering the part of your last question. I didn't realize that voiceover was a thing probably until the mid-90s when a very interesting show called Transformers Beast Wars came out. I think it might have been Beasties in your country. It was renamed in a couple different ways. But oh, was it? Okay. It might have been in Canada or something. So Beast Wars came out, and I heard Scott McNeil doing all these different characters, talking to himself in some situations. The voice cast was just extraordinary on that show, and I looked into the actors, and it was the first time it clicked in my head. Oh, this is a job. Oh my gosh, this is a job. I had just always associated the characters with the characters, and then that was the end of it.
Yeah.
And the fact that I went further and learned who these people were, and then I went to conventions to meet them in person, that was when I realized, okay, I feel like I've met my tribe. Like these people are speaking the same language I am, which is lots of different character voices, and I love it. So yeah, sorry, I missed getting around to the answer to that question.
That's
before.
absolutely fine. We're just here for fun.
What? That isn't what I was told.
That's so here on the contract.
So with you taking on these like iconic characters, how do you discover you can do these voices? Is it a case of you saw the job, then practiced it, or could you already do it and thought, I did that one, I'll apply to that?
That's a really good question. So for the iconic characters, like let's say Starscream or Donald Duck or Lucky the Leprechaun, no, I never knew that I would have the opportunity to audition for these characters. Starscream came about because obviously I'm a huge Transformers fan. You guys got a peek of my collection at the beginning of our chat. Yeah. I have some ink on me that says Transform and Cybertronian. So I'm a huge Transformers fan, and I helped run a website called allspark.com many, many years ago. And through there, I would do voice actor interviews, so I had access to like people and producers and things like that. And I heard that there was a new Transformers movie in development. And I thought, oh my gosh, like I've got to find a way to audition somehow, some way. Where I lived in the US at the time, in Washington, DC, in the Maryland area, I didn't have access to fancy agents or anybody that could help promote me. So I had my friends who were in the Transformer fandom, who were artists, help me create a comic book that I was able to send to Michael Bay, Steven Spielberg, to just say, hey, here's a quick wacky story involving me and the Transformers. Would you give me a shot? And I got an audition. I got an audition for the movie, which was all I wanted. I didn't get those characters, obviously, but then Activision contacted me a couple weeks later, said, hey, you want to audition for Starscream and a couple other characters? And I went, yeah, sure, yeah, okay. And like a week later, they said, okay, you've got the role of Starscream. And my life changed. My literal life changed. So they told me they wanted a really demonic, scary voice, something that would frighten the children. So I came up with something really breathy and frightening. And they're like, yeah, that's it. That's perfect. I get to the studio. I kid you not, Carl Weathers, Apollo Creed from the Rocky movies, is my director. And he says, how about just a British accent? And I'm saying, so what you're telling me is you want Starscream to sound like this? Yes, perfect, that's it. And my inner fan went, and they said, okay, well, what else you got? So in a moment's notice, it turned into Decepticons, this is Starscream, and that's what it was. So I walked away from this experience like 70% satisfied that what I was doing would not get me murdered by the fans. Because the original Starscream was Chris Latta, Decepticons, retreat! Really.
Oh my God, that was spot on.
Excuse me, 1 second, buddy. You wouldn't think you can't push me. Come here, bud. Come here, baby. Step up.
Trying to escape.
Sorry.
It's all good. It's all good. Don't worry. I'm trying to get out.
I hate it when he goes into Starscream.
I know, right? So Starscream was very in the moment, spur of the moment. I didn't have a chance to really practice what I ended up doing. I knew my lines because I had an opportunity to look through my lines, but not a chance to really work on the character. When it came to Lucky the Leprechaun, there was a little bit of finagling involved. I needed to kind of pitch my voice a certain way. I needed to find his placement because I could, do an impression of him, but it wasn't Lucky. So I had to go back and rewatch, a bunch of the commercials, look for all the little isms. Like when he chuckles, what does he sound like when he chuckles? Woo-hoo! It's like, you're 2 steps away from the Pillsbury Doughboy, but you're not quite that. It's still Lucky the Leprechaun. So yeah, I'm dissecting this information and trying to make it right. And you get to a certain point where, you still hear yourself as the voice actor, but it's convincing enough that it's not readily you. That's the point you kind of have to step away and say, okay, now we have to focus on the acting side of things, not just the sound of the voice. And making my way to the big one, Mr. Donald Duck. That was the very first voice I ever learned how to do when I was a kid. My mom taught me how to do it. So I think I must have been 4 or 5 years old, and she would tuck me in at night and she would say, "Oh, dear, I love you so much." And I'd say, "Oh, Mom, I love you too." And that was our thing. And it was a parlor trick for friends. And like I would get in trouble on movie sets sometimes, just doing the voice in weird places. And so I never thought in a million years that I'd have a chance to actually audition for the role. And when I did get the audition, they wanted classic Clarence Nash, who was the original voice of Donald. And so I had to do my research, much like I did with Lucky the Leprechaun, but more so because we're talking about a character with 86 years of history.
Oh, yeah.
So this isn't just a random character. This is a character that's woven into the social fabric of our society globally. My parents know this character. My grandparents know this character. Even my great-grandparents knew this character. So the pressure was on to get it right. And I did so many things. I played with my sinuses. I played with the different sounds in my head to try to make sure I got the right sound. I learned a bunch of different little isms and things. To give you an example, like, how does Donald chuckle? Okay, well, he does his hefty laughing that he does, but he also does an evil chuckle. How do I physically do the chuckle? And I learned that if I exhale with an F and use my upper cheek, that's where that sound comes from. So I had to go back and reverse engineer all the different sounds and figure things out. And that was what encompassed that job. And I would say it took probably, a year really of recording episodes left and right where I finally became comfortable enough with the character. And that it wasn't just me doing the voice in front of the microphone. It was me in front of the microphone hearing the voice of the character that was just coming through me, which was so weird to begin with. That was such a crazy moment. When I was like, oh my gosh, that's Donald Duck. That's not me anymore. So I know I did my job.
That is fascinating. I was just like, keep talking, please.
I love it because obviously with the launch of Disney Plus and stuff, I have a 3-year-old daughter and we watch Mickey and the Roadster Racers all the time. I love that show. So
it's a fun show.
Hearing you do that, I'm just like, this is amazing. Did you like speak to any people that had done Donald previously? Like I don't know the guys who did it on Clubhouse or anything like that to get advice or.
No, it was this was just me and the folks at the production. Yeah, no, I never got a chance to meet Clarence Nash before he passed away, and I still haven't had the pleasure of meeting Tony Anselmo, who's still doing the voice to this day. It's just not the way it's worked out thus far. But no, everything has just been from my own experience and my own research on the character, and yeah, just the advice and the great writing of the people on my team.
It's amazing. So cool.
It's like,
sorry, Dave.
No, Cameron.
That's another question to you, Carol.
I was gonna say, it's like Donald Duck it's a stupid noise I've always done for years to amuse my kids, and it's like how you manage to talk at the same time as doing the noise. It blows my mind. Like,
you know, I all I can say is that I got lucky with the acoustics of my mouth, the way that I'm able to use my tongue and my cheek and the voice itself. I always said, you know, well before any of this happened, if I ever lost the ability to speak, that would be how I would speak. So, you know, if I got pulled over by a cop for speeding or something, and I would say, "Oh, officer, I'm so sorry." You know, please talk to me. Wink, wink. You know, like that would have been my thing. That would have been my thing.
No one could be angry with that. No one.
So,
it's impossible.
I believe that in speech pathology it's called buccal speech. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Buccal or buccal. I believe it's buccal speech. So there's a name for it outside of Donald Duck voice, but it's just something that I've been able to master over decades of practice.
It's amazing.
That's just the thought of a police officer being like, "Yeah, I'm taking you."
We're hauling you away right now.
Yeah, we're not having this. Are there any characters you really want to do that haven't done yet?
You know, that's a tough one because, I mean, all of the classic Looney Tunes characters are favorites of mine, but they are spoken for, and you know those roles belong to people that I both adore, love, and respect in my community. So it's hard for me to say, oh, I'd love to do this pre-existing character that's already out there.
Yeah.
Realistically, what I'm hoping for is a character that I can claim to my own. You know, Starscream I shared with Charlie Adler. He did the voice in the movies. I did it in the video games. You know, there have been many people who've been the voice of Lucky the Leprechaun, and I'm now the third person to voice Donald Duck. So none of it has been my own original character. I've been doing things that kind of already exist. And I always love the opportunity to bring new characters to life. So when I'm a utility player on a show, or if I'm doing like, you know, 50% of the voices on a show and sometimes having conversations with myself in character, that's the most fun to me. That's the most gratifying. So I just get to create something. I get to add something to the universe that wasn't already there. So that's really, I think, what I'm seeking right now.
Yeah.
But don't get me wrong. I mean, these characters are both a responsibility and an honor. I mean, I'm borrowing the keys to the cabin cruiser with Donald for as long as Disney, you know, wants to have me there. But, you know, I'm just grateful that I've had an opportunity to do that, you know, for whatever time it is. So there's a difference in perspective, I guess, with these long-standing characters that are just like dream come trues, and you know, the creative side of me that just wants to create something new.
Well, I really hope that you get your opportunity to create somebody that is your own. That'll be absolutely amazing.
There is only one Larkatu from We Bare Bears, which was the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life, is you doing that voice.
The original audition for that, I had just gone through a really bad spot in my life, and I didn't care all that much. I was doing auditions and just kind of letting stuff out. And I got this audition. I was like, wouldn't it be funny if I did like a pug mixed in with a rooster? Okay, let's just do that. And the audition ended up being. And they cut the end part of it because I was like, oh, a pug, a pug making a lot of noise or a Frenchie carrying on, like that would be kind of funny. And they're like, no, just the first part of it. So that's what ended up being the Larkatoo, which was just so much fun. That was so much fun. And I mean, We Bear Bears. I mean, how cool to play in the sandbox of such a huge property and cartoon and now franchise, I should say. It's amazing to just kind of put my little touch on it. Even with the Joker, with Joaquin Phoenix last year, you hear my voice in the very first minute of the film as he's putting on makeup. And this movie went on to win, Academy Awards, and Joaquin won for Best Actor. And it's like, I got to touch that appropriately. I got to touch this thing. It's amazing. And I just, that's one of the joys of this vocation that I really love is you get to peel back the curtain on some things and play and have a lot of fun. So yeah, I've gotten to do some stuff, which is really neat.
Yes.
Little roles like that you don't really think about, do you? You're just watching the film, you don't think someone was hired just to do that little bit of radio speech, but that gave someone a payday.
But something, if it's done right, you shouldn't be asking those questions at all. That's
Very
the
good
point
point.
of a movie, is you don't ask these kinds of questions, like who's doing the lighting or who's doing the green screen, whatever. Like, if you notice those things, somebody did something wrong. So you shouldn't be noticing my voice. It should just be part of the ambiance and the story that's being told. So yeah, as long as nobody knows it's me, I did a good job, and now I let everybody know it's me. So I don't know if I'm doing a good job.
Well, I mean, you had to tell them, so you are.
Thank you. You're very kind.
I try.
When I was doing my research for this, I found it absolutely amazing. Like, we spoke about your voiceover work, and it's mostly like kids projects like Tom and Jerry, We Bear Bears, and all that.
Yeah.
Your normal acting is very far from that. There's a lot of horror movies and ninja movies and stuff involved. Really made me.
Yeah, well, so the first thing I'll say is acting is acting. Acting is acting. Voice acting is just the same. You got to bring a character to life, even if it's wacky and kind of kooky. There is a life behind that voice, and that is acting.
Right.
So whatever medium it's on, I mean, look, I love on-camera work. I love being silly. I've always kind of been a bit of a clown. So, doing stuff on camera and being silly or self-deprecating is always, second nature for me. But I miss it. I really do miss film production and being on camera. And in my early days, when you are starting out, you want to do anything that you can to facilitate what you want to do, what your goals are. And my goal at the time was to be an actor. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't have any refined goals or different avenues at the time. So, early in my career, did I make some interesting choices in terms of what I participated in? Yeah, absolutely. You take what you can get. And in the case of the Ninjas movies, I both produced and was a story supervisor on that with my best buddy, Justin Tim Payne. He and I were both struggling actors in the Maryland, DC, Baltimore area. And we met at a script read for a movie that we did called Crawler, which was also a cheesy B independent horror film being headed up by legend Don Dohler from the B movie genre. And so we met and we became best friends, and we were very much into Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel and Clerks and all that. So we'd have lots of late nights, talking up at his place, and we decided, hey, let's buy the quick stop. Let's make our own opportunities. And because at the time I was a store manager at Blockbuster, we went to Blockbuster to see what wasn't on the shelves. And we said Ninjas versus Zombies. We can't find Ninjas versus Zombies. So we made Ninjas versus Zombies.
That's amazing.
And, it was off of credit cards and purchasing equipment, and all done in backyards and, super lo-fi blood and effects and everything. It's as campy as you can get. and yet somehow we managed to get it out to the world. We got it internationally sold. I believe in the UK it was called Zombie Contagion, which had nothing to do with the ninjas part, which I thought was funny. And yeah, so the opportunity arose and we made a second one. We made Ninjas versus Vampires. And that one we got internationally sold. We got it on Netflix for a year. We got it, it's currently on Amazon Prime. It was illegally downloaded so many times it made like the top 10 illegally downloaded movies of 2022 list.
So that's amazing. Not
yeah. And so we found ourselves with our wares kind of floating around the world. So we followed up with Ninjas versus Monsters and, you know, put a little bow on top and finished it out there. And I continued producing other films in the area and really enjoyed myself. It was a lot of fun. And I would anticipate continuing to play in that genre because I love horror comedy so much. I just think, you know, when it's done right, like Tucker and Dale versus Evil, when it's done really well, it's a great genre. So I would love to get back to that at some point. But yeah, the current iteration of me is very family friendly, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay separating the sides of myself. You know, I can be a bit crass. I can be, I can say naughty words when I need to, but I feel like, you know, for my TikTok content, for what I'm doing right now, I just appreciate making my content available for a wider audience, you know, and I'm okay with that. That's just the way careers progress. You never know what direction it's going to take you. But I think as long as I'm asking myself the question, is this what you want to do? Then that's okay. If at any point I'm saying this isn't what I want to do, then I might need to look at it and change some things up. But your dreams can change sometimes, and it's okay. And I'm just enjoying what I'm doing. So I've got no reason to stop yet.
Well, you've officially won my heart by being inspired by Kevin Smith, because the man's
there you go.
Man's on my arm. I love him. So the question is, who are the ninjas going to fight next if you decided to go back to it?
That's a really good question. I think for the time being, we're probably done with that story. I'd love to make it into a side-scroller video game at some point, because we just have so many fun little like bosses and characters that you could play as, you know, kind of like the TMNT or the X-Men side-scroller game. I think we could make a pretty awesome game out of these characters. But outside of that, I mean, always looking for the next adventure. So there are some things I'm writing. There's some things my partner Justin's writing, and you know, who knows? Who knows what the future holds? I'm open to it all, and people seem to like my Karen Hunter character from TikTok, so I might be doing some more with that. I don't know.
TikTok, like you were saying earlier, seems to have really thrived with creators during this lockdown. We spoke to someone. We recorded the interview yesterday. Like, she started in April because she was bored, and she's now got 4 million followers on there. So it's an insane how creative that app has become.
It's pretty crazy. And I mean, I don't get up there and do, you know, all the crazy dances and whatnot. I certainly don't look good in a bikini, but you know, I'm just doing my thing and just bringing a little piece of myself and my humor to my page. If it makes me laugh, then that's what I'm putting up there. And the response has been very positive. So I don't have 4 million followers as of yet. I think I just broached 112,000. But in terms of anything else that I've done before, that's huge. And I'm just so happy to have people watch it and laughing along.
That's how people discovered. That was how I discovered you. I saw you on TikTok.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, that's how I discovered you. I was like, he did.
I'm so sorry.
Emailing this guy right now.
Oh.
So were there any roles that you auditioned for that you're like, I want this, I really want this, that you didn't get, that cuts deep to this day?
I wouldn't say that cut deep. I mean, there are always opportunities that pop up and you're like, oh my goodness, like that could be me. Why not me? You know, there are always moments that happen like that. But the reality of the entertainment industry is you have to do your best and then forget it. Because if you linger too much in your wants and desires, you will always be disappointed. And I live in an industry that's like a roller coaster. You're constantly riding highs and lows and highs and lows. So the idea of rejection, is something that you have to be okay with. I audition 100 times a year, at least. And, just to round numbers out, at least 100 times a year. And I will book maybe 1% of that. So like 1 or 2 gigs per every 100 auditions. So if I'm beholden to every one of those auditions and hoping and praying, I'm gonna drive myself crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, don't get me wrong. There've been a few times where I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm reading for this. And then I do it. I put all of my love and excitement into it, and then I walk away and I forget about it. And hopefully if something happens, a month later, 2 months later, sometimes even a year later after you've auditioned, then it's a surprise. You're like, oh, I did this thing. Oh, cool with that. All right, sweet. I get to do the callback, or I get to do the job, whatever the case may be. But yeah, it's too much. It's too much to think about.
So with the auditions you do then, so the ones that you don't get, do they pass on information to the people, or do they go, I've got a friend, they tell them about you? Does that happen frequently?
So when I audition, it's a very nebulous process. You audition, it goes out into the ether, and then you hope for the best. But, if you don't get the role, you don't have somebody call you and say, hey, they like this or that, but you didn't get it. You just don't get a call. You only get the call if they want to hear something further, if they're going to book you for a callback, or if you've actually booked the role. So yeah, you audition as much as possible. It's like pulling the lever when you're playing slots. You're just playing. You're just playing every single time, and you might hit it at some point. You might get a little bit back, or you might hit something really big. You never know. So yeah, that's, in terms of the process, that's at least where my end is.
Okay. Fair enough.
Are there any roles or projects coming up that you can talk about?
Sure. There, of course, lots of things I can't talk about, which is always the juicy stuff. Right now, I have a film that I produced and acted in called The Distanced. It's a short quarantine film with a sci-fi background, and it's gone around the festival circuit right now. So we're excited about that. Another film that I produced called A Christmas Cancellation is making the festival circuit right now. And I've been working on a comedy series called Vulgar Fantastico with my buddy Larry Longstreth. There's 3 episodes that are on YouTube right now. I play a demon named Dracovus Finn, which is so much fun. And yeah, definitely not for the younger audience. But yeah, I'm continuing to work during the pandemic and trying to create new things. And hopefully when the world returns, maybe next year, I'll start, campaigning and trying to work on camera stuff. Because I'd love to get to, be that quirky comedic neighbor, that lives next door that's always bringing souffles or something. I don't know. I think that would be fun for me. But
I just imagine the call to the agent.
Still focused on voiceover and loving it and loving the response from it. I'll tell you guys, one of the things that I never anticipated getting into voiceover was how it affects people and how it affects the world in a positive way. I can't tell you how many times someone has approached me and said I was having a bad day, or I had gotten into a car accident, or I was in a breakup, and I watched your show and it just brightened my day. Thank you for that. Those moments matter to me, and is a pleasant side effect of the fact that I'm here just doing a job, and it gets to have that kind of impact on the world. So when I see people who send me their reaction videos to me doing Donald Duck for their kids, and the kids light up and there's a smile on their face, I get to know that I put it there. I get to know that I helped make that moment. And when the world is going through something like we're going through right now, it just means so much more.
Yeah.
So I love what I do. What can I say?
That is incredible. It must be so rewarding.
Indeed. And I get to talk to fine gents like yourself.
Oh,
No, you.
Stop it, you.
No, you.
No, obviously, we were talking about doing like the iconic characters and stuff earlier on. I noticed from looking at your TikTok video, you do some incredible impressions. The one that stood out to me as an old wrestling fan was Jesse Ventura. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah, well, Jesse's an old classic one of mine. You know, former governor of Minnesota. He's a great guy. Conspiracy theory. Tune in at 9, 8 Central.
Oh, I love it so much. Is there any? What are your other favorite impressions you like to do?
I always like doing Bobcat Goldthwait. I mean, he's kind of one of my favorites.
I love Bobcats.
Oh, that made me so happy.
I of course love doing Ed Wynn. My goodness, Ed Wynn from Mary Poppins.
Oh God.
Also known as the Mad Hatter. Can you believe it? Happy young birthday. Yeah, he's one of my favorites. Oh gosh, I'm trying to think. Anne Ramsey from the Goonies. Do you remember the old lady from the Goonies? Yeah. Owen! I'm thinking Throw Mama from the Train. Owen, you rotten little child! The horrible son, I never loved you. That's one voice I'm determined to use for a character at some point. Yeah, no, there are some that just stick out in your brain, and you have to find a way to use them. In some way, shape, or form.
Is that always that story? That question people said, who would you like to have you read a bedtime story? And I was like, oh, Morgan Freeman or something. My answer has always been Bobcat Goldthwait.
I don't know if you'd be able to sleep.
Just the idea of Bobcat reading me something like Three Little Pigs is just the best thing in the world.
Well, then of course, Gilbert Gottfried could be saying the same thing. Three little pigs. Three little pigs. One had a house made out of straw. One had a house made out of bricks. I think I would not want to sleep ever again.
Literally the greatest moment of my life. Oh, incredible. Oh, you've made my day, sir. That was wonderful.
Mission accomplished.
Oh, wonderful. Oh,
right.
Yeah.
Where were we?
It took me out of the zone. That was amazing. Tom, did you have anything else you wanted to ask?
I did. So I've always wanted to delve into the world of voice acting. It's something I've always dreamed about doing. Whether it comes to fruition, who knows? But I was just wondering if there were any advice you had at all for anyone wanting to get into the industry.
Absolutely. The very first piece of advice I always give is check out D. Bradley Baker's website, iwanttobeavoiceactor.com. Now, I know that sounds a little cheesy, like, hey, go check out this website and it'll answer all your questions. But D. Bradley Baker, as you know, is one of the most prolific voice actors in our industry, and has compiled probably the best resource for people who have these kinds of questions, even to intermediate and to advanced folks. There is information that he compiles and keeps it updated all the time. So I always recommend, hey, check it out first as kind of a preamble to your experience if you're curious, because it'll answer a lot of the questions that I might not be able to answer quite as well.
Okay.
But my advice, study acting, study improvisation. Those are two key elements and tools that you must have when you're in the recording studio. There may be moments where the director says, okay, we finished the line. Can you just come up with something on the spot for us? I mean, that's a rare occurrence, but they might say, this isn't sounding right. What you got? And in a moment's notice, you have to be able to come out with something that is relevant to the character, sounds funny, sounds good, and that takes, many thousands of hours of practice and experience to bring into the studio when you actually have to record. Not even to mention the idea, like I was saying before or earlier, about bringing a character to life. There has to be life behind the voice, not just a silly voice. I can do a silly voice all day, but if there is nothing behind that voice, it's just a voice. And if it's one note and, so many other things to take into consideration. So acting, improvisation, two big factors, and then, you know, getting to know what your instrument is capable of. When I teach workshops, that's usually what I focus on, is how to discover your instrument so that you can pick out different archetypes, how you can stretch and play with different voices so that you can create something new. That's what I like to focus on. So it's a multi-pronged approach. I just threw a lot at you, even though it feels like so little to me.
That's okay.
But yeah, voiceover is very rewarding if you're willing to put in the time, the effort, the financials, the stress, the emotion of it. Again, this is kind of all about rejection and how you handle rejection. And if that's something that you are not capable of or have a difficult time with, you may want to consider something else, because that's a big part of it. It's not all just, hey, I get to do this voice and live a wonderful lifestyle. Many of us are scraping by and just do it because we love it and not the money. So yeah, voiceover is a lot of fun, but do your due diligence.
Lovely. Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate that. I will definitely check that out after we are done here.
You should. I encourage you to.
Amazing. Mr. Ross, thank you so much for coming on. It is really appreciated.
Thank you so much for having me, guys. This was a lot of fun. I will just plug myself real quick and say...
I was going to say, have you got any links or plugs or anything?
Yeah, if your audience is curious about me or would like to continue the conversation, you can find me across social media, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Snapchat, all across the board. You can find me at Actor Daniel Ross. Actor Daniel Ross. Not proctologist Daniel Ross, not baker Daniel Ross, actor Daniel Ross. So yeah, I hope you guys will find me and continue the conversation.
Would love to. I'll be finding you, don't you worry. Thank you so much, Daniel. Like, seriously,
so
we
much.
really appreciate it so much.
Go watch my movies on Amazon Prime. Yay!
I don't suppose I could be really cheeky and ask you to do a little voice clip for me.
Perhaps.
Could you just simply say, "This is Donald Duck and you're listening to the USUK Podcast Network"?
I can say a multitude of different things. I can't plug anything with the voice, unfortunately.
I didn't think of that.
But so I'm sorry, I can't. But I can say,
that's my new ringtone. That's fine. Thank you so much for coming on. I really, really appreciate it.
Thanks so much, guys. Really appreciate it too. Hope to talk again soon.
Good talking to you. And I'll send you a link when all this is
Find
out
all this great content and more at the USUK Podcast Network.